December 1st, 2011. Looking at some news from today's IsraelNationalNews.com, and it says Kuwait warns its citizens to leave Syria now. It looks like a good bit of the Arab world, the U.S., Canada, the European Union, is coming down on President Assad pretty heavy because he's cracked down on his citizens. I want to read this. It says, Kuwait issued an urgent warning to its citizens Thursday, telling them to leave Syria to ensure their safety while they still can. Saudi Arabia has already issued a similar warning on Tuesday. I'm going to pull this down. Earlier in the day, the Arab League tightened economic sanctions against the regime of President Bashar al-Assad and added 17 high-ranking officials to a ban on travel to other Arab nations. The Foreign Ministry's Consular Department has called on Kuwaiti nations currently based in the Syrian Arab Republic to leave the country to ensure their safety, reported Kuwait's state-run KUNA news agency. The department also advised Kuwaiti nations to refrain from visiting Syria at this time due to lack of security. The Arab League, Turkey, the European Union, the United States, and Canada have all tightened sanctions imposed on Damascus in response to Assad's refusal to end government violence against Syrian civilians protesting against his regime. Now I'm going to pull this up. You can pause this and read it. It's a short article. Since March, the United Nations has estimated that close to 4,000 people have been killed in the brutal crackdowns on the weekly demonstrations by government troops. Human rights organizations and activists, however, placed the death toll much higher at more than 4,500. Thousands more have been wounded, including many who have been tortured after being arbitrarily arrested and detained, including some children. A significant number have disappeared, but specific data is not available due to the restrictions on observers and media by Syrian government troops. The UN Human Rights Council earlier this week ruled Assad guilty of crimes against humanity that have been carried out by his troops and likely at his command. Now, going back 1 week to the same site on Israel National News, says the no-fly zone over Syria. Says with the blood-drenched soil of Libya barely dry, Syria is posed to face the same fate as Arab nations plan a no-fly zone. Now, I want to go to Google Maps. I want to pull this up and let you read this article. It says Turkish warplanes are reportedly preparing to implement the plan as soon as the Arab League gives a go-ahead. A decree calling for the protection of Syrian civilians is expected to be issued shortly. Now, I'm going to pull this down, and you can pause this and read the entire thing. Now, this goes on to say the Arab League suspended Syria's membership last week after President Bashar Assad chose not to honor his agreement to end the violence against civilian protesters. In March, the Arab League similarly suspended Libya after former dictator Muammar Gaddafi ignored its efforts to broker an agreement between the government and opposition forces. Eventually, the Arab League called for a no-fly zone there, paving the way for a NATO bombing campaign that led to the end of Gaddafi's reign. A published report by the Kuwaiti Al-Ra'd daily newspaper quoted senior European sources as saying the plan is expected to cripple the Syrian army in less than 24 hours. The no-fly zone would include a ban on the movement of Syrian tanks, personnel carriers, and artillery, according to Al-Waba. I'll pull this down. Now, of course, there's Russia saying it's abstained from the vote, maintaining that a human rights issue should be no circumstances be used as a pretext for interfering in a country's internal affairs. Now, what? That's typical. Hold on. Now, looking at Google Earth, you've got Syria here. The West Bank is here. Israel is right there. Now, Jordan is right there. I'm going to pull this up right to where all this kind of comes together. Okay, this is the Syrian border. This is the Jordan border. You come down in here. This is the West Bank. This is Tel Aviv. This is Jerusalem. Again, this corner right there is where Syria and Israel would come together if they had a battle. And this point just happens to be a very famous location. We've all heard of it. This valley is called the Valley of Megiddo. We call it Armageddon. This is Mount Megiddo. I'm going to pull this up. Right there. It looks out over a great valley. There's mountains on this side, hills. On the other side of the valley, the same thing. This valley's always been a trade route. There's been other battles there throughout history. But this is where all of this is coming to a head. Is right there in the Valley of Megiddo, below Mount Megiddo in the Armageddon. Now I want to back this out. Coming to the Syrian border with Turkey, you have Iran. And if Syria is attacked, more than likely Israel's going to get right in the middle of it, because they're probably going to be attacked in retaliation. And when they do, you can look forward to Iran taking advantage of this situation and following through. If they can't come through Baghdad, they will come right through this section of Turkey into Syria, here to the Valley of Megiddo. Now, one of the things that the Bible says is that the river Euphrates will be dried up. Now, that river goes all the way through Baghdad, comes north. Again, Syria will open its door to Iran for their help. But you can come right here, and with a push of a button, you can shut the whole thing down. Right there. So things are in place. That's what this video is about. Just kind of a heads up on what the world looks like we're heading into, guys. Y'all have a good evening.